Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelava, and this is Speedplay Italy and Hearts of Iron 3 number 11. We left off with our Operation Black Ice in effect. We went into it with the easy confidence that people with no idea what they're getting themselves into generally have. Naturally, that didn't exactly work out, and we have new plans. We're going to try to hold out defensively in the Ukrainian area. We do have some armored elements which we can bring up to hopefully press forward. We're going to reduce and destroy this encircled pocket of Soviet forces and hopefully launch an attack up in the Caucasus. Ultimately, our German not-allies and Japanese non-allies are not doing very well, so we're going to have to bear the burden of destroying as many Soviet forces as we possibly can. So we'll see exactly how well we're able to do that. Now it looks as though we are facing a bit of difficulties here in the Odessa area. Our forces in Crimea are going to try to pull back. It looks as though we don't have a causeway between Crimea and Odessa and the rest of the Ukraine, so we're probably not going to worry too hard about that. We might try to break back out, however, as you can see, the Soviets are doing very well against us, and it looks as though we might lose those areas. We're going to begin reducing this pocket, as that is probably the most realistic area we'll be able to make gains against. And we're going to try to defend Odessa and the region out as long as possible to try to get these units out of there. Ultimately, though, most of the area is still static, or relatively static, as it is January. So it is basically the middle of winter, and we did manage to time our invasion fairly well in the sense that we pressed forward a bit, found out the true capabilities of the Soviet Union, and now, since it's winter, we don't really have to worry about too much active resistance. We pull back all of our most disorganized units from Odessa, and we're just leaving everyone basically where they're at right now. The United States is making great progress in Indochina and against the Japanese. We're not going to deal with that, as it's really the most minimal level of importance compared to everything else going on in this war. Now, we do give up that province, and we are just going to pull our forces out of Odessa. I'm sad to lose Odessa, however, it's really indefensible at the moment. What we will try to do is relocate some of our forces defending Crimea so that we can launch an attack into the Caucasus Mountain region from there. We are going to start reinforcing, and it looks as though as soon as we move that armored unit away, the Soviets attack, so we'll move that back and just maintain the defense. We'll probably have to keep all those forces where they're at. We do pull our air force out of Odessa right in time. And yeah, so here we go, reducing that encirclement. We're going to keep pressing forward against the Soviets and hopefully break through here and encircle this army and all that salient on our side of the river. Right here we're going to try to press up and defend the Hungarians. I'll get more to that in a moment. Right here we pull back from that battle as it's not going very well. We do manage to win right there, and we're pulling all of our armored and mechanized units to the very edge of our front, where we'll hopefully have some nice little advance scheduled. We start sending these forces out basically everywhere. We're trying to launch limited offensives wherever we can possibly launch them, as we do still have a bit of momentum against the Soviets. They did push us back fairly well in a lot of places, but that's not the end of the world, really. We'll be able to do a little bit of something. We go ahead and drop some forces off, and we're going to launch limited offensives really everywhere we're able to. For example, right here, where it turns out that's actually not a very good idea, so we pull back as they're able to not defeat us, but slow us down, and we'd probably lose organization. Over here, though, in the Caucasus Mountain areas, we're doing very well. We're winning against the Soviets. We're on their side of the river, which means we'll be able to hopefully just expand throughout that area with relative ease. The pocket is now down to one large clump, and we're going to try to attack here between these two rivers. And it's now 1945, so we're going to research the next level of infantry and armored technology. These forces attempt to move forward. We do have to fall back. However, we have additional forces coming in to reinforce, so that'll hopefully help. And now it's time to attack, and if we pull this off, we'll encircle this entire massive Soviet force that's in Hungary right now, which would be a great boon for us and a great loss for the Soviet Union, and hopefully buy the Germans, Hungarians, and Slovaks some extra time. These forces all begin to move forward. It looks as though we're doing fairly well. And we're going to start pulling some of these forces back and land in Odessa so we can get the airfield back. Now, I know that we had previously abandoned Odessa for being indefensible. However, we're going to try again and hope for the best. We retreat those armies, but we did manage to disorganize the Soviets a bit. More rebellions, and the Americans are in Norway. Alright. Still making advances. We can probably just keep gunning through. We attack with all the forces we had left behind, and that's doing very well, which will hopefully be the main battle, and we'll press forward against the Soviets and hopefully do considerable damage. All of our mobile units we're bringing up. And, alright, we're gunning forward. That looks like it's going very well. We pull our armored unit away and into Odessa, although there is a bit of an issue sending it there. We do keep going forward. These forces are making good progress. We have to get reinforcements there so they don't get encircled. We did manage to take that province to the west. We are gunning forward even further. If we can take these remaining 5 provinces, we'll encircle these Soviet forces, and that will be a great benefit for ourselves. These forces continue to move forward, somewhat slowly, but still moving forward. We are kind of stuck in the mountains. Unfortunately, we lost in Odessa. I wasn't paying enough attention to that, didn't even realize that we were going to lose them, so we lost an armored unit, a mechanized, and 3 Marines. So that was a terrible loss of our Marines. I believe we lost some Marines earlier on as well. We should really take more care of our Marines, but the situation is getting just very, very climactic, we could say. This isn't going to be the end-all be-all, even if we lose these engagements. However, we are very close to finishing off this encirclement of the Soviet forces. Over here, not so much, but we are gunning into their hinterland, which they'll have to take back from us. They are counter-encircling us to an extent, and we don't really have enough troops. Here we do have enough troops, and we're hopefully going to be able to pull this off. We are gunning deeper in. They're retreating from the city. We attack to just ensure that they fall back. Over here we have 2 provinces left, and we'll be able to encircle. 1 province in the west. And here we go. In just a moment we'll finish the encirclement. Hopefully the Germans and Hungarians will help out a bit. The front is doing all over fairly well. The Germans still not making any gains. We are sticking to Operation Bearing Our Burdens fairly well. We are now getting attacked by the Soviets. They're launching a counterattack to attempt to prevent us from just destroying all of their forces, which is completely understandable, to be fair. And ultimately the situation is going to get a lot messier in the next few moments, as the Soviets and us basically try to see what we're able to salvage. Whenever you attempt to encircle an enemy army, you risk your own army being encircled as well. And here you'll see the giant mess, the front line-less, complete morass just taking hold of all of these areas. We are really doing damage to the Soviets. Here not so much. We're probably going to have to fall back at least a bit. Here definitely though, we have turned the encircled area into 2 smaller encirclements. Here we have finished the encirclement, however our armies are retreating through a decent portion of it, so it won't last long. Right here, a Soviet armored unit is attempting to break out and may in fact succeed. We are going to try to do everything we can to prevent that and fight all of these battles everywhere. You'll notice the front line just does not exist as a concept anymore. It is just a series of battles just happening in a giant morass. Our units are now technically encircled up north, which is not ideal. However, they don't have very many forces. We bring our air transports over so we can resupply them if need be. Our armies are now encircled here as well. Hopefully we'll be able to launch a counterattack and re-encircle them and break our own encirclement. Battles are happening just everywhere, updates constantly. We did manage to re-encircle the southern group of Soviet forces here. Over here we're finally winning the battle to de-encircle ourselves. The Soviets break out once more. Hopefully we'll be able to carve our forces forward and re-encircle at least a portion of their forces. How likely that is to work remains to be seen. We've broken our encirclement up here. We are driving through. We are now creating 2 smaller encirclements and will hopefully destroy some Soviet forces. These men are now moving over to try to destroy this force that is blocking them off. Here we're going to try to win this battle and encircle at least a small element of Soviet forces in this region. A decent portion of them have escaped and appear to be continuing their escape. We'll probably not be able to get all of them back. We give over command of India to the AI with a defensive focus and worrying about all the victory points. Hopefully they'll do a decent job of it. We can't really focus on that and all of this. We do manage to re-encircle and destroy part of the Soviet forces. We have taken back the encirclement on this area. The Soviets are fighting us, and we're probably going to retreat into Hungarian territory. Here we are not really encircling them anymore, however we have cut off that one group of infantry. We are losing these battles by the looks of it. We're pulling back all the terribly disorganized forces, and we'll try to just hold the line. In these areas you'll notice our armored units are not doing fantastic. Here the line will hopefully hold, and the Soviets are launching just a bit of a general offensive. A decent portion of their forces have been destroyed because the Germans and Hungarians did manage to pull forward. Our armored units that were encircled and are now in Hungarian lands are pulling back. We're trying to win the battle of that city, which will hopefully go fairly well. That poor city, it has been fought over quite a few times. We're not quite able to get the encirclement done up here. Over here we are losing these battles somewhat. We are launching counterattacks, which did apparently manage to press them back, leaving the region under our control. And alright, we are losing that battle. We did move forward and we're losing a battle over there. Ultimately, the situation is not ideal, but also not terrible. We did destroy a few Soviet forces, and we did rebuild the encirclement here. However, it looks as though it fell immediately again. We might lose one of our armored units, as its support forces might be destroyed. In fact, this one unit right there is in a really bad spot, as all of the surrounding forces have retreated. We might not be able to fully get an encirclement going, and we do have them encircled at the moment. However, that's probably not going to last, and we do have to retreat from that battle. Right here the front line is looking decent, at least, as we do have most of the control over this river. We might get pushed back a little bit in modern Moldova. Hopefully we'll be able to hold that out, and in a couple months we'll get new armored divisions. The Germans, as you can see, have fallen back quite a bit. However, we did defend the Hungarians and retake their territory. If we manage to get enough forces to maintain that encirclement, then we'll be able to hopefully destroy a considerable force of the Soviet Caspian Caucasus region. Crimea is just kind of nothing. However, it does hold up a lot of forces. Japan's doing nothing. America's making great progress against us and the Japanese, which is pretty worrying. None of our Pacific former Commonwealth states are doing anything. At any rate, thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll be back tomorrow continuing the fight.